Here, what's good, y'all? This time I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing some of my hopes and expectations for GRM's 2020 Rated Awards. So this was something I actually wanted to do since I first heard about the Rated Award nominations, but I just kept putting it off. I really wanted it to be perfect to the point where I just ended up not doing it. But I heard something in a recent video where they said done is better than perfect. Even though my perspective on a lot of these categories is going to be relatively limited because I don't know as many of these names as I would like to, I'm still going to do my best to be as objective as I can and make sure that my reasoning is grounded in some kind of fact to a degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give y'all who I expect to win, who I want to win, and who I could see winning even though it's kind of unlikely. So I don't want to hold y'all too much longer. Let's get straight into this one. I'm also going to be upfront. I haven't heard all of these projects, but I'm going to give my perspective based on what I know about the artist and what I've been hearing about the projects or the artists in general. So off rip, who I expect to win, Stormzy. I want J Hus to win. J Hus's album, Big Conspiracy, was my most played project of 2019. Everything about that project, top to bottom, is damn near perfect to me. It has so much replay value. You can listen to that project in any mood. There's a song for every mood. There's a song for every audience. You want to hear drill that's not too rude but rude enough? He got that. You want to hear something for the ladies? He got that. He has everything. J Hus is probably the #1 UK artist right now across the board. I feel like Stormzy probably has a bigger name in terms of like broader audience, and that project is similar in the sense that it has a song for a lot of different moods, and Stormzy really did show his versatility on this project. Now Skepta, Chip, and Young Adz, I could see them being one of those projects where if they win, I could be like, but I get it. You know what I mean? Between those three, you have several generations of artists. You have Skepta, who's pretty much around from the inception of grime compared to these three. You have Chip, who is like that transitional era between old school grime and new school music. And then you have Young Adz, who's like one of the leaders of the new school in terms of mainstream music. So when those three announced their project, I already knew it was going to be one of those that was going to gain a lot of attention really quickly. So that's why I could see it being one of those projects where a lot of people are going to vote for, even though you may not expect it to win. As much as I would love for Cadet to win, I feel like he's one of those artists where him passing is what's going to make him so prominent in some people's hearts and just going to want him to win. But compared to these artists that I just mentioned, I just don't really see him winning it. I don't see that project taking it over Big Conspiracy on a broader spectrum. Kano, this project was actually really good. It had some songs in there that I really appreciated, but top to bottom, it just doesn't compare to Big Conspiracy and Heavy as the Head. So out of all the people who I haven't mentioned, aside from the fact that I haven't heard their project, I just haven't really heard much buzz around their project, so that's why I don't really see them really gaining too much traction in terms of the votes. Alright, next up we have Track of the Year. Just looking at this track listing, you have to be silly to not think Don't Rush is gonna win. Own It is the one that I could see being the track that if it wins, it won't catch me off guard. It's Stormzy, it's Ed Sheeran, it was a big song. Like you're gonna keep hearing me say every once in a while, it just hits so many people, and that's really the criteria for what I think is gonna determine whether or not a song is gonna win. I highly expect Don't Rush to win. This song alone was really big for the UK. I have friends out here who probably don't even realize that this is a UK song, but they definitely know the song. Darko Gangsta. This is one of those songs where I'll be happy if it won, but I just don't see it winning. It's kind of up there with Don't Rush in terms of like being that song that reached so many audiences, but this was a big year for Heady One, but I just don't see both comparing to Don't Rush. It just doesn't, honestly. Now J Hus Must Be, let me tell y'all, when this song dropped, I wheeled it so many times. Like this is one where if it wins, I'll be so happy. I want it to win. Between this and I Don't Know, I want it to win. I Don't Know as a collab was wicked. Everything about it, the flows, the back and forths, the beat choice, it was just a wicked lineup. So between Own It and Don't Rush, I'm pretty sure those two hit the largest demographic that would vote for this song. But I really highly expect Don't Rush to win. Whether or not you like it, it's the song of the year for the UK. Let's just be real. Now for mixtape of the year, admittedly, I have not heard all of these top to bottom, so my perspective is going to be super limited. I'm letting you know up front. But again, I'm just going to give some of my really loose expectations for this one. Now just looking at this list, I highly expect D-Block Europe to take it. I'm pretty confident in that one. I feel like they have the most bangers out of all the artists that are listed here, and again, they just reach the most people. I want to see OFB take this one. Front Street was just one of those where it's like I'm just happy to see that they're putting out a project, they're getting their name out. It was a good project. I just don't see it really matching up to a name like D-Block Europe. At least OFB where they were when that project came out, I just don't see them matching up to D-Block Europe. And next up we have Male Artist of the Year. Now looking at this list, it's kind of obvious to me once again, even though these two are not the best on this list in terms of what it means to be Artist of the Year, even factoring in a little bit of 2019, Young T and Bugsy, they swept GRM's whole chart for weeks. So I have to be objective about it. It just is what it is, honestly. I want to see Heady One take this one. Now the thing is that drill, in terms of the broader spectrum, it's growing because of how international it's becoming, but it just hasn't reached that level of Don't Rush in terms of its international reach. However, that collab with Drake was such a huge deal. That song was probably a lot of people's introduction to UK drill outside of maybe like Man's Not Hot or something. He's done so much for OFB. You could put out a song and it can have OFB in the title and you're gonna want to hear it just because of what their bigger artists have done this year. You just want to hear what the next one is gonna do. So that's the reason why I want to see Heady One take this one. Now in terms of artists who I could see taking this, even though I don't expect them to, J Hus and Stormzy. Again, those two have some of the best projects that came out of 2019. So we have female artists of the year now. Just looking at this list, I highly expect Stefflon Don or IVD to take it. Once again, I'm not too familiar with all of these names, but at the same time, that kind of ties into how I feel about their placing in terms of this whole nominee list. Why Stefflon Don just makes music for so many different kinds of people. That's just, again, going to be my biggest deciding factor. This is just a hunch, but I really wouldn't doubt that for those women who don't listen to drill like that, they probably will bump IVD. I have friends out here who don't really know much about the UK scene, but they know IVD. Now, for who I could see winning it, even though they're not my top pick, I could see Darko taking this one. Darko, Gangsta Alone, that song is a bop. I have friends out here, once again, who know that song. It is a really good song. And that was a big year for Darko just off that song alone. Now, if you've been following me long enough, it should be no surprise who I want to win this one. Tizandos, by far. This was a huge year for her. The songs that she released, the potential that she has continued to display, she just doesn't get the views that I think she deserves. But Tizandos gets this one for me, hands down. I really want her to win. As a small side note for me, I really don't think that Lady Leisha and Little Sims should have been on this list. Not because I don't think that they're deserving. They've reached a certain level in their careers where it's just like they're pretty much legends in their own right. So for them to not win, it just wouldn't feel right. It's like if somebody would have put Jay-Z on an Artist of the Year poll. It's like, okay, we know he hasn't been as big of an artist as some other artists for the year, but it's like Jay-Z not winning, right? That's how I feel about Lady Leisha and Little Sims. Like, it just doesn't feel right, but I know that they're probably not gonna get it. Now this next category is definitely one of the most difficult ones. All of these videos top to bottom were extremely high production, but in terms of who I expect to win it, Stormzy. His name was just way too big. The editing on that video was ridiculous. The only one I can see kind of comparing to it is Rain, but everything that Rain does well, Sound of the Skeng does better, in my opinion. Now for the one I want to see this one, it has to be Trouble. This video is just such a ride of emotions, and then the way that they chose to transition it into a celebration of life towards the end, and you have three legends, Gets, Kano, and D-Double performing pretty much live, giving you that reminiscent feel of like the throwback grime days. That one to me is special. I think that all of the things Nuts' video does well, I just feel like Trouble does better. Now for the ones that would make me say it makes sense if they won are definitely Gucci Demon and Rain. Rain because like I said, the editing is just way up there. Like I said, everything that their video does, Stormzy's video does better. Now my reasoning for Be Young is that if you actually sort GRM's videos from most popular to least popular, Be Young, although it's a different song, is actually GRM's second most popular artist in terms of the song views. So that alone gives me an indication that he has a huge audience and people who are consuming his music. So that, if he does win, I could see making sense. Now for Personality of the Year, once again, I will admit I do not know all of these names on here. But just looking at this list, my initial impressions, I expect Chunks to get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if ZZ Mills gets it. Chunks just recently hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, and also 1 million followers on Instagram. So I mean, that alone is an indication of a reach. So that alone is just a huge indication of his audience, just off rip. The reason why I wouldn't be surprised if ZZ Mills gets this one is just because her show alone has really done a lot. She's hit so many different kinds of topics, so many different people. So this was a really good year for her, I would say. Now again, if we're talking about for the year, that's why I think she kind of deserves it. Now this category right here, this is one of those where I think it has the most competition. Off rip, I expect Dutch Belly to get this one. Even if we want to factor in a little bit of 2019, the span of 2020 which Dutch has been present, almost all of his songs have been on GRM's charts since they dropped. Now if we're talking about breakthrough to come out and start like that, come on, let's be real. I really want Millions to get this one. I feel like this was a huge year for Millions. Millions kind of went from like a small buzz to just boom. I was just like, whoa. And he's also one of those artists who have been able to take drill and make it expand so much larger than just like this small pocket of people on the internet that just want to hear rudeness. Now in terms of who I could kind of see taking this, even though I don't really expect it, it's between Meeks and OFB. Meeks is one of those artists where you may not necessarily talk about him too much. He has a unique flow, he has a unique voice, he broke through. Now for DJ of the Year, it should come as no surprise to you all that I don't know all of these names and I don't actually listen to UK radio. But in terms of who I expect and want to win, Kenny All-Star, man. Mad About Bars has been a huge platform for artists. You may not like all of the artists that have been on it to the same degree, but the quality of music that has come out of Mad About Bars, come on. Charlie Sloth, I feel like his name is just so up there that if he wins, it's just be like, I mean, sure, you know what I mean? But I don't really know what his impact has been on the radio scene. So y'all let me know in the comment section down below what you think about that. What makes this category so difficult for me is that it's hard for me to just look at a producer's name and immediately know all of the songs that they were associated with, right? Even though I know that all of these producers were involved in some big songs, they just don't really jump out like at the top of my mind. Now with that being said, M1 is at the top of my list, honestly, just because of how big of a song Only You Freestyle was. That song spun so many reactors just off the instrumental alone. Is that the best beat of the year? I don't know, but just the impact again that it had, I could kind of see that one being enough to give it to M1. Now for who I want to win this one, TSB or J5, and that's strictly based off of how big of an impact that they had with Big Conspiracy. And if I'm going to say that Big Conspiracy's album of the year, I also have to chalk it up to the producers that made it such a big project. So that's why I really want them to get this one. But the reason why I feel like they're going to be a little bit unlikely is just because I don't really see people voting for them because of Big Conspiracy the way that I would. The rest of this lineup, it has a bunch of super deserving producers. This whole one, everybody on here is really deserving. Fred again produced a lot of Ed Sheeran songs, so because of that, if Ed Sheeran fans are enough to pull the votes for him, you know, it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't see that really being enough, honestly. Ill Blue, they produced some of my favorite productions. Between Dumpa and Magic, those were mad songs, but I just don't know if they were enough to really put them up there in influence. Ghosty is also another one who, if he gets it, I wouldn't be surprised. His name is just so massive when it comes to production, right? If you hear certain sounds, you know it's gonna be a Ghosty beat. So if he does get it, it really wouldn't surprise me. And honestly, my favorite drill song for the year, Prison, was produced by Ghosty. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I know that this one isn't gonna come out super duper perfect, but I really wanted to share this with you all before the actual results come out. I do hope that y'all enjoyed this one. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. I'm gonna be looking out for these results because I really want to see what happens. Let me know what y'all think. Do you feel like some of my opinions are on point? Do you think my perspective really makes sense? Or do you think I was way off? Who do you think deserves one of these categories? And also let me know who you think should have been on one of these lists that wasn't. Again, thank you for making it to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. But until next time, peace.